Hello, my name is Aleya Kassam. Welcome to this masterclass. I am a Kenyan feminist, a writer, a storyteller, and a performer. So I must begin with a performance. And in my culture, the only way to truly invite you in, for you to really know who we are, is to invite you to a wedding. So this piece is entitled, How to Get Married Indian Style. The first thing you need to know is that an Indian wedding has very little to do with getting married, and it has absolutely nothing to do with love. Please, that's for Mzungus. The sole purpose of an Indian wedding is one thing and one thing alone: to show off. It's not just a wedding you're organizing, it is an experience you are designing. I mean, for Shah Rukh Khan's sake, we have Bollywood to live up to. It is our ethnic duty, our way of saying, but do I say? Because Luo funerals ain't got nothing on Indian weddings. So fasten your bindis, put on your bangles, and ensure your sari is securely tucked away into your petticoat to avoid any embarrassing predicaments. First things first, a weight loss regime. I'm not talking about the bride, silly. Who's going to be looking at her anyways? I am talking about everyone else. It is imperative that you squeeze into that midriff-bearing outfit. Those that can afford to, and many who can't, nip down to India to get their tummy snipped. Size 0 is sold on a menu across the Indian Ocean. The next thing you need to know is that an Indian wedding lasts, on average, 5 days. You know what that means? 5 themes, 5 color schemes, 5 dresses, 5 menus, 5 locations, 5 bands, 5 times the chaos, 5 times the stress, 5 times the drama. And you thought you had it bad. I mean, it would be unthinkable to have all the events in the same location. You need a garden venue for the peacocks you rented to strut in, an indoor venue to accentuate the sparkle of the 10-kilogram wedding sari you made of Parisian lace and embroidered with thousands of Swarovski crystals hand-sewn by stubby-fingered turbaned Rajasthani villagers, and a helipad. You hardly expect the bride to walk down the aisle, do you? Now for the wedding cards, or should I say merchandise. This is not a wedding, it is a brand, and every component must reflect the brand. The trend du jour is to have a chocolatier curate a bespoke tray of Belgian truffles and slip the wedding cards inside the box. It should appear effortless, nonchalant, casual, like this is what all your correspondence looks like. Next, the guest list, the birth ground of intergenerational family feuds. You see, not everybody is invited to every event. An invitation is not a right, it is a privilege. Got it? Now, 5 days of events represents 5 ways to dazzle a captive audience with your imaginative, sophisticated, and cultured theme ideas. There is no such thing as too much. Bollywood hangama is a must. Arabian Nights, a standard. Afternoon high tea has garnered favor of late. Kitenge couture is a new entrant to the theme catalog. Black tie is the perfect opportunity to show off those backless ball gowns. Oscars, because Hollywood is still cooler than Bollywood, and vest is best, now. For entertainment, you must have a big Bollywood act, a bona fide, lip-syncing, hip-swiveling, torso-thrusting Bollywood actor, complete with outfit changes and backup choreographed dances, of course. Now, for the food, the most important part of any Indian wedding, the creme de la creme of the whole debacle. This is where you cannot afford to experiment. The buffet table must be groaning under the weight of hundreds of delicacies: beef biryani, vegetable biryani, chicken biryani, goat biryani, Hyderabadi biryani. Why choose when you can serve them all? Rotis, naans, papadums, dosas, idlis, parathas. Why choose when you can serve them all? Potato curry, cauliflower egg curry, eggplant curry, ladyfinger curry. Why choose when you can have them all? Rasmalai, gulab jamu, kheer, sikand, laddus. Why choose? You get the picture. You see, the thing is, if the menu doesn't have enough variety, Michael Jackson himself could be moonwalking across the dance floor. But the only thing that people will have to say about the wedding is that the food was ekdam bakwas, yaar. And after all, what people say about the wedding is the whole point of the wedding in the first place. Now that you've experienced an Indian wedding, come with me. Welcome back. So, did I make you hungry? Today's masterclass is a masterclass on storytelling. It's a masterclass about sharing the stories of your life and your world with the world. And it's a masterclass about storytelling as play. So, I guess I should tell you a little bit about myself. Okay, this is the bio that I send when people ask me for bios. Aleya Kassam is a Kenyan feminist storyteller, writer, and performer. Her writing has been performed and published on multiple platforms and stages around the world, from Nairobi to Kigali to Stuttgart. She's widely experimental, from page to stage, screen to speaker, microfiction to memory poems, docutheater to participatory filmmaking. She loves to play with how people experience story. As the A in the Lamb Sisterhood, she fills the world with stories for African women to feel seen, heard, and beloved, like the award-winning Brazen. So this is what you would read about me on the internet. Here's what I tell you if you're my friend. I'm actually a promiscuous creative. Or is it creative promiscuous? I don't know. All that is to say is that I'm deeply curious about stories, and I kind of am one of those moths that follow the shiny light. I'm very, very interested in all the different ways that people experience story, whether it is Twitter threads as storytelling, whether it is performance poetry as storytelling, whether it is blog posts as storytelling. Today, I'm going to share with you some of the things I've learned along that journey. That piece that I wrote seems like a frivolous, simple piece on the surface, and actually it is. It's the kind of piece that really pokes fun at yourself. And I think that is one of the absolute delights of sharing your stories with the world, is you can tell the stories that you can make fun of in a way that other people can't. There's such an expectation of the kinds of stories that one should share with the world if you're from Africa. For a long time is, what is the African story, right? What is the stories that are either the poverty porn or the Africa rising porn? What about all the grays in between? What about the stories of our joys and our silliness and our triumphs and our betrayals and the things we lust after and the things that make us laugh? And I think that this is really the power in telling your personal story. Storytelling is an invitation into your world. So I'm going to tell you another little secret. The first time I performed that piece, and this is what the beauty about performance pieces are, is that you get to experience people's reactions to them as you perform them. It's very different from a piece that exists simply on the page, where you don't get to see how your audience is connecting to the material. With a performance piece, you're there. The energy is shared. You get to, it's dizzying, it's mesmerizing, it is completely addictive, which is why most likely the first time you perform and you feel that connection, I suspect that you will be always wanting to perform. The first time I performed that piece, I was completely blown away by the reaction. There were a few people of Indian heritage, Kenyans of Indian heritage, in the audience who were on the floor besides themselves, just completely cracking up. And I remember kind of being shocked because, I mean, I just didn't really think that, I knew the piece was funny, but I mean, it's not that funny. But it's just that they hadn't heard those things spoken out loud. They hadn't had the opportunity to share their ridiculousness with others. And so the first tip is invite people in and be open and honest about the things that make you who you are. That takes me to my next storytelling tip, which is really about openness, honesty, and vulnerability. One of my favorite mediums to tell stories is Twitter. What I think is really interesting about Twitter is it's a very noisy space. And it's a bit like a marketplace where people are just yelling, all over, and your attention is split amongst many, many different things. And I think that that's kind of an interesting challenge, because then it means that what is the kind of storytelling that draws people in a medium that is bite-sized, that is, started out with 140 characters, tweet by tweet by tweet by tweet. What can you explore in that form? What can you share in that form? And what is it that people connect to in that form? The other kind of fascinating thing about Twitter is that you are sharing your stories really with a community of people that you don't necessarily know. You don't know what space they're in that moment. It can feel sometimes like you are speaking stories out into the void. And I think when you're trying to capture people's attention, how do you do it? Okay, so once again, I'm going to invite you into my world. This story is the story of my family. It's the story of many lives. It's the story of many generations. It's the story of many decades. And it's a story that I told on Twitter about a year ago. And in the telling of this story, I learned things that have really stayed with me that I would like to share with you. So first, for the story. And this was a Twitter thread unraveled tweet by tweet by tweet. 100 years of samosas. A gripping tale of family fortunes destroyed, lives rebuilt over and over, arthritic fingers, the quest for perfect triangles of crispy, spicy deliciousness, fraud, and a death under fishy circumstances. The end is the start again. New tweet. The first. Every day at 4 a.m., Raju, in a kaunda suit, stuffs his car with fresh bread. Balancing on the seat is trays of Mama's spicy beef samosas, a treat for his fave customers. New tweet. He drives the bumpy, winding road at the edge of the Gorongoro crater, making deliveries outside of Arusha. New tweet. The end of the first. 1967, the Arusha Declaration. Tanzania nationalizes. Raju stuffs the family into their orange Volkswagen. They leave behind a bakery, home, and beloved memories. They drive to Kenya, where Mama is from. They take only clothes and Mama's recipe for spicy beef samosas. They start over the first time. New tweet. Mombasa. The heat interferes with Mama's dexterity, and she can't make the samosas as fast as she used to. The humidity makes her dress stick in places she doesn't want it to stick to. Raju loves the ocean. With a partner, they open a bakery. The end of the first start. New tweet. Mombasa. Every morning, Raju opens the oven doors. The fresh bread emerges, laced with green mold. Raju is convinced the bakery is haunted. They sell and flee the ghosts of the ocean that carries their dead ancestors. The second life. New tweet. Nairobi. In their small home, stuffed to the rafters with relatives, Mama enlists everyone to help with stuffing the samosas that they sell to order. The house smells of fried onions and spice. Mama has one small bottle of ane she sniffs for relief. One thin pastry after the other, one samosa after another, the young couple build their lives. All the children become experts at filling the samosas. Mama is a tough teacher. The pastry must be perfectly sealed to stop the hot oil from leaking into the carefully mixed beef. Raju and Shirin, Mama, open a canteen in industrial area. On the morning, they go to look at the space. They see a long giraffe walking by the roadside. Taking the creature as an omen, they call their canteen Giraffe Snack Bar. Over the years, the young men working around the area come to love Mama's spicy samosas. Every evening, she lays the dining table at home with piles of thin pastry, and in a flurry of mastery, she fills hundreds of samosas ready for the rush the next day. The young couple buy a home. Mama starts being able to get her hair done at a hair salon with her eyes squeezed shut. She smiles when it is time for the hairspray. Anything to change the smell of fried onions that clings to her. She can't get her nails done though. People from all over East Africa visit for the samosas. My dad, a young man in Polytechnic, would rather be adventuring and playing hockey. Instead, he has to stand at the canteen in his free time. He complains that when he tries to talk to girls, he smells of fried onions. Hundreds of thousands, possibly even millions of samosas later. I am 6 years old. At the dining table, I watch Mama and Raju's magic fingers. The pile of perfect triangles grows. Next to me is a mound of misshapen, lumpy parcels masquerading as samosas. I'm trying to learn. I'm 9 years old. Raju declares me an expert. It is school holidays, and my sister and I join in the samosa filling every day. It is fun, and I love the way flour/water glue cakes onto my fingers. When Mom fries the samosas I've filled, I feel so proud I want to burst. It is Boxing Day. We get a call to say someone has destroyed the Giraffe Snack Bar. We know who. A big man whose name we can't say out loud because we don't want to be disappeared. He wants the land. The canteen lies in a heap of rubble, everything destroyed. Just like that. I'm tingly from my first kiss. I just met the boy who I will end up marrying. I'm floating oblivious to the sorrow around me. For the next 10 years, Raju will fight the case in the courts, but big men always win over small men. He gets a pittance, but they have savings. My father says, Daddy, it is my turn to look after you. You and Mama rest. And so Raju and Mama rest. Mama's fingers start becoming arthritic from the years of folding samosas. Raju still bakes until the moon jumps into his left eye, turning it milky, molten, and useless. My parents build their lives. Mama goes to the hairdresser every month. Her skin no longer smells of fried onions. Raju lotions his skin with an array of potions. How nice it is to smell nice. My parents work long hours. The family's joint savings grow. It is time to retire. A lifetime of being careful and some luck means there is enough put away for the parents and grandparents not to have to rely on their children. With this knowledge, their children are freed to make selfish life choices. I end up as a writer. October 2015, Imperial Bank. We wake up one morning and discover that everything is gone. Everything. 3 generations of life savings, millions of samosas worth of work. Only the 1,000 shillings in my wallet is left. Friends lend us money for electricity and bread. I write about it in an open letter to Imperial Bank. Secretly, we are hopeful. There's no way it can just disappear like that. There's no way suited thieves can just steal money like that. No way. Oh, so foolish. I forgot. Kenya. 4 years later, Imperial Bank remains a fuckery. In this country, this economy, like most people, the hustle is real. So we start again. We aren't afraid of starting again. We have started again many times. It's time for the smell of fried onions to seep into our skin again. So with great delight, we are resurrecting Mama's spicy beef samosas and doing the thing we know how to do. Samosa by samosa, we are rebuilding our lives once again. I wrote that thread December 19th, 2019. I clicked post and I went out for a walk with my mom. Within the 1 hour that it took to come back, my direct message inbox was filled with orders for spicy beef samosas. Mom and I were so excited. There was hope again. Overnight, our living room was transformed into a factory setting. There was piles of boxes, just everybody making samosas. We slept at 2 o'clock in the morning with the smell of fried onions in my hair. And the next day, off we went, piling samosas for deliveries. And 1 year later, we have a samosa business called Wow Eats. That is the power of the personal story. The power of the personal story that invites people in, that lets them into your world and helps them become part of your story again. The truth is, we are rebuilding our lives one samosa at a time. And it took sharing our story for that to happen. Here's what else it took. So, I'll tell you another secret. I think my dad was a little bit uncomfortable with me sharing that story because it was incredibly vulnerable. It shared the losses of our family in a way that almost bared us. But I think that's the vulnerability that people connected to. And I think that if you are able to speak your truth honestly and really be open, there's no way that people can't connect to it. Here's what else I learned by doing that Twitter thread. It was as if there was an unrolling of our lives, tweet by tweet by tweet. All of a sudden you had kind of 70 years worth of life compressed into maybe 20 tweets. And so you have to kind of zoom out and look at this huge, grand, big story and pick out the points of that narrative that really connect to people and that really move the story along. Because it's really quite easy to get bogged down by the detail, to think when you're looking at big family stories, like, what do I share? How do you take all these lives, all these years, and create something lean? And Twitter is a great, great tool for doing that, because the brevity and of the space that you're allowed means that you pick the things that sparkle. The other thing that I realized that really works is the sensory. I am still struck today by the memory of Mama sniffing her skin, smelling the fried onion, and then picking up the bottle of Aleya and spraying it on her skin. That one image, that one moment, speaks so much about what the experience of her life was in that moment. And that's the other tip I would share with you, is what are those moments in the story that just sparkle, that speak to the experience of what that person is going through. My father, as a young teenager, well, not a young teenager, my father is a young man trying to chat up girls, and again, smelling of fried onions. You know, when you're trying to tell big stories, what makes them really memorable and what makes them really sticky is those little details that bring that story alive, making it feel personal, awakening your senses, making you feel like you're really there in that moment. And finally, my last tip really for Twitter thread storytelling is to think about it almost like a film, almost like a storyboard. Each tweet represents a scene. And within that scene, you have a little bit of time to kind of describe what that image is of that moment. And the next tweet is another moment, another scene, something else brought to life, so that when it unrolls, you've taken the reader on a journey. By the time they get to the end, there is a narrative arc that they have reached the end of. And I said it was my final tip, I lied. This is my final tip when it comes to Twitter storytelling. Tell them everything you're going to tell them in the first tweet, right at the beginning, because that's when you have to grip their attention. It's almost like a log line. How do you create that first tweet in a way that is so compelling and so gripping that they can't help but want to read on, to find out what's going on? It's almost like the blurb of the back of a book. So I'm going to read you the first one again, okay? 100 years of samosas, a gripping tale of family fortunes destroyed, lives rebuilt over and over, arthritic fingers, the quest for perfect triangles of crispy, spicy deliciousness, fraud, and a death under fishy circumstances. Everything that happens in the long Twitter thread is communicated right at the beginning, except you don't give them all the details, so they want to know what happens next. It's been really fun sharing these stories with you in this masterclass. So far, we've talked about an invitation into your world. We've talked about the power of vulnerability. We've talked about how important it is to share your stories with the world. And I think my final tip for you is to play. You know, stories sometimes need different forms, different expressions. And I would really encourage you to play as much as you can with mediums and with genres, with everything from horror to romance to literary fiction, from poetry to plays to Twitter to flash fiction. There's something that each form will teach you that will enable you to not just improve your skill as a storyteller, but will teach you about your own viewpoint and your own stories. There's incredible power in play, in saying that actually the important thing is not the output. The important thing is not the product. The important thing is for me to try something new and learn through that trying what it has to teach me. It's to say that actually the story I'm not telling, it's to say that actually it's not the story I'm telling that is the point, but it's what I learn in the telling that is the point. And so yes, have fun. Try lots of different things. Stories also are stubborn. Sometimes they know what they want. Sometimes they want to be shared with people on a stage, in a spotlight, with energy and sound and light. Sometimes they want to be experienced under the duvet in a bed, all alone. Sometimes they want to be experienced in a matatu, on a phone, with someone breathing down your neck. I say, have fun. That's my final tip to you. Thank you so much for being with me. And if you'd like to follow my work or see more of what I do, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Aleya Kassam, and on my blog, www.chanyado.wordpress.com. And I hope that in some way this has been useful to you. I can't wait to experience your stories. Bye-bye.